just common sense.
So I think maybe we should talk a bit about real estate and your experience with it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you got into just real estate income properties early on in your
Mhm.
20s, relatively early on.
Mhm. Yeah, by accident, actually. So I graduated from college, and I lived in Florida. I went to University of Florida. I graduated from there, and the company I worked for moved me down to Southwest Florida, so like Naples area. So I was 23, 24 at the time, and I bought a townhome down in Naples, Florida. And Southwest Florida, from pretty much Sarasota down, it shuts down, or it used to shut down during the summer months. So you have a big snowbird, what we call a
Mm.
snowbird population. The Northeasterners from like New York, New Jersey, those areas, they'll take Interstate 95 down for the winter and end up in Boca, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. So that's why you
Mhm.
get a lot of Northeasterners on the east coast of Florida. You get a lot of Midwesterners on the west coast of Florida because they
Oh.
take I-75 down, like straight through, and they end up
Mm.
in Sarasota, Tampa, Fort Myers, Naples. So you'll see a ton of tags from the Midwest down in Southwest Florida. You'll see a ton of tags from the Northeast down in Southeast Florida. So it's kind of
Mm.
interesting if you follow the roads, the interstate systems where it leads to. So,
Yeah.
so I bought a townhome in Naples, Florida, back in like 2001. And back then there was no iPhone, there was a computer, but there was no, not an iPhone or anything like that. So I would read the paper, I had the Naples Daily News delivered, on the weekends to me. And I was single at the time, and I would read the paper, and I'd always been interested in real estate, but I was only 23 or 24 at the time, and I was flipping through the classified section of the real estate, and just noticed like a ton of for rent, 1 month, $5,000,
Wow.
three months, $12,000. And so I started researching it a little bit, and what would happen were the snowbirds would come down to South Florida during the winter to escape, the Michigan winters and the Chicago winters and things like that.
Mhm.
And they would rent, they wouldn't own a house down there. Some of them, a lot of them owned houses down there, but the majority did not own a house down there. They would just come down and rent for a month to get out of the snow,
Mhm.
and they would pay, and they were mainly older, 65 years old plus people, and they'd come down to the beach, during the pretty much November, December, January, February, and March. And it was like you could that area would just get flooded with Midwesterners. So, I was living in my condo or my townhome for about probably a year at the time, and I was like, I'm going to try this, and see if I can get anybody in my condo. So back then, it wasn't VRBO. It was, you had to type out vacation rentals by owner in the thing, So it was like right when vacation rentals by owner was kind of getting started,
Mm.
and I threw my place on vacation rentals by owner, and within a week I had like some inquiries, and I started, the people would send me like $5,000. I'd book their place from like January 1st to January 31st. The next old couple would send me another $5,000. So I just packed up all my crap, and I rented a room from one of my friends that lived down there. And I was like, hey, man, I'm desperate. I didn't tell him exactly what was going on, but I was like, I need a place to stay for about 5 months. He's like, all right, just pay me $300 a month. You can rent. He had a little house, and he's like, I'll charge you rent, half of utilities. I'm like, sold. So I was paying him 300 a month. I moved out of my place. I was getting 5,000 a month, 4 to 5,000 a month. And from then on, I was addicted to real estate. I was like, this is insanity,
Mhm.
that these people are paying me to stay in my little 1,100 square foot condo, in Naples, Florida, for 5 months out of the year. I mean, I'm making 4 to 5 grand a month.
Yeah.
So just renting my place for that short a period of time paid for my mortgage and then some for the whole year.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of got me started. Well, then, I saw what was going on down there with that. And so I decided, well, let me just go all in. And that's kind of when the problem started for me is, I started buying more properties and got over leveraged. And the option arm mortgage was all the rage back then,
Mm.
and I had like three option arm mortgages, and it just got really squirrely really fast, and so that I learned some valuable lessons in real estate, and I never want to go through those again. But that was my foray into real estate, was renting out my condo or renting out my townhome that I lived in, first. And that's why, like on Twitter, I'm always telling people, if you live in a hot area like Vegas or Orlando or New York City, I mean, and it's like, especially if you're in like New York City around New Year's or something like that,
Mm.
I mean, I'm sure there's restrictions on that, but I mean, you could probably, sneak somebody in, if you just rented it for a week, but I highly recommend people that are in areas like that to try out short-term rentals by renting out your own place if you can do something like that. That's how I got started in it.
So let's say that I am a 24-year-old and I have 50 grand saved up. I don't, but let's say I
Mhm.
was.
Mhm.
Would you recommend that person? Is that enough money to say, okay, find your first condo, get a mortgage, and use that as rental income property? Is there a certain threshold you need to be at? Is there a certain like risk profile you need that you would recommend before someone does this?
So looking back on my life, I would always recommend somebody before they start moving into real estate, if they have that much saved up, I would highly recommend starting an online business first, like an eBay or Amazon. See if you can
Mm-hmm.
turn that 50 into 70, and then see if you can turn that 70 into 100. I don't think 50,000 is enough to move into real estate.
Mm-hmm.
You're with any real estate you're looking at on an investment property, you're going to need 20% down. But some people just say, okay, I just need 20% down. Well, you need reserves as well, like a lot of reserves. When you're looking at, let's say you buy a $300,000 place, which, now low end places are, 250 to 300,000. You'll say you buy a $300,000 place and you need 20%, that's $60,000.
Yeah.
Now you need another 20,000 in reserves just in case the AC breaks or something like that, or something goes wrong. Um, that's a lot of money, for someone to kind of put down all at once,
Mm-hmm.
on their first dabble of real estate. So in this market with the interest rates and things like that, you have to be very, very careful, because there's not a lot of good deals out there right now. There still are if you know how to find them, but my recommendation for any newbie, in real estate is just sit tight, until like 2024. I was thinking you were gonna see a big correction in 2023, but I'm not seeing it happening yet in major areas, yet. I mean, my stuff that I build is still selling, for, $1.5 million, and I'm just not seeing a big correction yet.
Yeah.
But I think 2024 is going to be the year where people really have to start, selling their properties because they're not cash flowing.
Got it.
So no, $50,000 is not enough to put towards real estate right now.
Right.